Well, hi there, welcome to the channel. I have gotten a lot of questions about my utility cart. This custom made out of scrap wood I had laying around the shop. And it solves a problem for me specifically. When I first started the empennage, I found that I was just collecting tools on top of the work surfaces, and I didn't have a good way to address my work and keep my tools organized at the same time, so it was very frustrating. I've always struggled with organization and putting tools away, and so over the years I've learned to make specific holders and locations for my tools. That way it's easy for me to put away, it's easy to see when things are missing or out of place, and this is just another example of that. So I guess while I'm at it, I will also give you a quick shop tour, show you some of the things I've built and the way I organize for my build. And again, specifically, I'm building the RV 14A by Vans. I've gotten almost through the empennage kit. I'm applying the skins to the tail cone right now, and I've really enjoyed it. It's been challenging. It's taken quite a few months, but I'm looking forward to continuing on and building the rest of the kits. So I will bring the camera a little closer, give you some detail of the cart, and then we'll go from there. So here, I'll give you a little tour around the base of the cart. Again, I just made this out of scrap wood I had around the shop. 2x4s, 3/4 inch plywood, and this is 1/2 inch 1x8s, I believe. So instead of bringing the 2x4s all the way up to the inside where they would take up room, I just did a butt joint here, and then I reinforced them with some 2x4 pieces that were stapled to the bottom of the top compartment here, which is made out of 1/2 inch as well. So I've just got a few things. I've got cup holders, which is first and foremost. So I took a couple pieces of 1/2 inch plywood that I had, cut those or glued those together. And I took a hole saw and I cut through, and then I just chiseled out some of the plies. I drilled a drain hole, and then I covered this in Plastidip, so the moisture, the condensation from the cans wouldn't cause any problems with the wood. So I've just got a little clip here to hold on to my lights. Got a couple different lights I use when I'm building. I've got a little dust brush here, and we'll go around. Just took some more 1x wood, glued those together, and then I drilled holes in the top, which I'll give more detail when I go over to the overhead view, to mount my different tools. Here on the back, I put a flange for 3/8 just galvanized pipe, and I use that to make my holder for my plans. And then this clipboard is basically an inventory sheet for the kit. And my wife and I, when we put everything away, we labeled very specifically where things were. So I actually use this very often. So I just put some locking casters that I had around the house. This is where I keep my DRDT2 when it's not in use. And on this side, I've just got a screw that I use for holding tape. I have my pneumatic squeezer on a little holder here. I keep my extra yokes, and then the opening wrench to take off the yokes and replace them with different sizes. And on the front, I use these all the time when I'm riveting, so I just keep those handy. Just got a couple extra clamps, a little small hammer, and then my tape measure that's got a magnet, which I use quite a bit there. So here I have my rivets, which I'll take those out and I'll show you more specifically about this. Okay, now I'll move on to the overhead view so you can see that. Let me swing the plan holder away so you can get a little bit more light. So what I did is I put a large enough bin for my number 30 Clecos and my number 40s. I just keep the Cleco pliers in here. And then I've got a little holder for my bottle of Air Tool oil. I keep my bowling lube for my drill bits here. I've got a pair of really handy crafting shears that my wife got for me. Love these things. Here on the side, I made these little foam pockets for my digital calipers, which I use these all the time. Absolutely love them. I've got this little square that my father-in-law gave me. I find this extremely useful when I'm checking depths and just small little things. Now I've got my traditional kind of combination square here. Got a couple extra little attachments for that. And you'd be surprised how often you use this, especially when you're trying to find angles on the bends or the flanges. So I've made some specific boxes. This one is for my Molex equipment. So I bought a kind of a multi-sized Molex tool off of Amazon, which is here. I think it cost me around $30. So far, so good. You know, the name brand Molexes are very expensive. This is just a wire stripper. I just used some blind rivets I had, not for the plane, just for general use, and just put some elastic on top just so that stays there. And here's all the different sizes of the Molex connectors. I've got 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, male and female, and just got some silicone there that I can use to seal everything up as I'm making the connections. And this is just the instructions for the Molex connectors. A lot of this stuff is extremely small, so if you don't have a place to hold it. Again, these are some of the rivets I don't use as often, and some of the blind rivets. This is just a little container I use for grommets, zip ties, different things I need for the electrical installation. So, doing the Molex, they're extremely small sometimes in the wire, so my wife bought me this. It's just a little magnifying glass that you can use to hang around your neck while you're doing those really tiny connections. I found this very valuable. I like this a lot. So here I just drilled a hole for my deburring tool. I've taken a pair of diagonal cutters and I've made this edge flat so you can use it for easily removing rivets. Got my safety wire, pliers, and twister. And I've just got a adjustable wrench. Got my fluting pliers, some needle nose. I drilled some 1/2-inch countersunk holes there just to hold my vise type devices. So this is just a random clamp. You can use this to bend the metal. My different types of clamps, and then my seaming tool. I put all those here. Again, here I just use my different rams for the air gun. So the adjustable and the long ram, and then I keep these in this little bag that are full of lithium grease. So I keep the lithium grease here. And I've got some Loctite. I know the plans don't call for Loctite, but sometimes I use Loctite on some of the nuts that won't be moving. So I've got some different clamps here that I use quite often. And underneath, I've just got my different sizes of safety wire, and of course, my standards for aircraft maintenance and building. And then here's one of the bucking bars that I purchased separately, which is extremely useful and almost required for the elevator. So it's got this little angle here and then a tapered angle on this side. Keep it wrapped in this is just to keep it from rusting, because this is untreated. Over on this side, I've got my rivet gun, my 3X rivet gun. It's got my air drill. And you saw this earlier, just my Harbor Freight pneumatic blind rivet puller. So I made this little holder for my plans because, again, I was having trouble finding where to put them. So I just took a piece of plywood, put a little lip on the edge here, and it's just cut at an angle into this triple layers of plywood and then down to a flange here. So I originally just had a 12-inch, but when I spun it, it would hit the drill bits and I couldn't do a 360. So I got a little extension here. Fantastic. So it's perfect height for me just to walk up to. When I'm working on the plans, I can come here, check everything, mark everything off. I found it extremely useful. I just keep this. This is basically the PDF that's printed off Van's website, just to give all the specs on the RV14, because a lot of people come in and ask me, they think I'm building some sort of model plane, so I show them this just to educate them on what the RV14 is all about. For drill bits, riveting, accessories, and clamps. So if I need to use these, I just put Velcro on the bottom here and then ran some Velcro and stapled it here. So I'll put these up on top and I'll talk about those specifically in just a second. Okay, now we'll move from the cart close up to some of the details. So here is what I use for rivets. So it's just a DeWalt small parts bin holder. So my wife was kind enough to label each of the bins with their size of rivets. And I'm always afraid of spilling a whole bin of rivets. So what I can do when I'm working on a specific size, I'll pull those out to my work area, and I always make a habit of closing this, at least one of these locks, so I don't worry about spilling and getting all my rivets mixed up. Put that back in. So I've got a few other rivets that weren't able to fit in the main holder here, so I have this available. Comes very handy, and it's not quite as many, so I don't stress about knocking that over as much. I already showed you my kit for the Molex. So here's a close-up of my drill bits. So these are pretty much all the different drill bits that came in the kit I bought from airplanetools.com. Here's the little Cleco clamps. And this I pretty much leave out all the time when I'm working. So I've got my number 40 drill bits and countersink here. Number 30, got my step bit, my larger dimple dies, of course my Sharpies, my main bucking bar. Got my ruler here, and my 12-inch number 30 and number 40 drill bit. So one thing I like to do is keep a little magnet handy so I can use to put my different shim washers. So when I load up my pneumatic squeezer, I can always dial in the size that I need the rivet head. So here's my different measuring tools for my rivets. I've got my countersinks. I just have them both kind of screwed together on this holder. and then I put them on as needed. So that's pretty much an overview of my organization of my tools and my cart. So I'll just quickly show you my benches. So right now, I've got the benches separated, but as you can see, I've got this piece of wood and this piece of wood so that I can slip in my DRD-T2. So you can see it's bolted to a piece of plywood here, and when I'm ready to use it, that slides right in here, and then the top of my dimple area is flush between the two tables, and then I just bridge the gap with this piece here so that I have a table on the left. This bridges the gap, the table on the right, and the DRD-T2 sits right in the middle, so I can do the large skins very quickly and easy with confidence. Here's a quick close-up of kind of where I am real time. So I'm getting the wiring installed. I've got the bottom skin riveted on. I'm getting the lower side skins fitted. I've got the rear lower skin ready to go with its bulkhead in place. And then after I get all those riveted in, I can do the top skins. This is where I organize. So I've got A, B, and C shelves. So I've got B top, B number 2, 3, 4, and so on. So I use this when I'm breaking out the parts out of my crate, and I label that on my sheet that I use for inventory. So at the top here, I put in a Mr. Cool mini split, which is absolutely amazing. I love that very much. It's made it so much more comfortable in here. So here I've got some shelves, and I've got the vertical stabilizer and the rudder that are completed. I use this this clear wrap that I got from Lowe's, I believe, and I just wrap that just to keep it clean and from getting too damaged. And on the top shelf here, I've got my horizontal stabilizer and then my completed elevators. As you can see, I've got those clamped and secured just so they don't move. So some of the other things, here's my battery operated tools. I go with a DeWalt XR brushless 20 volt. I find it easy just to try to keep everything the same batteries, that way you can use it. Here I keep my different fasteners for tape and the various types of tape, double stick tape. As you can see, I like to keep everything organized. I've got my battery operated blowers, which I use very frequently. Here's a quick look at my workbench. So on this side, it's pretty disorganized right now, but I keep my power supplies, my camera gear, my batteries, things like that in here. Some different glues, just some random storage. Again, I get a little crazy with the organization at sometimes. This is where I work on my different videos and do my research, things like that. And over here I've got a little metalworking station, so I've got my big vise, my metalworking equipment, chisels, files. Again, it's not the greatest, but it works well for me. Got a little refrigerator down here. I've got my flex wire feed welder here. What I do for light is I've got this Craftsman light that I use quite a bit. I mostly just bounce it off the ceiling. It gives me some really good light. got the fluorescents on each side. And then I use the garage lights as well, keep those on. So over here next to my storage, I use a Harbor Freight air hose, excuse me. And I use this specifically to control my air tools. This is a separate source that comes off. This is my full pressure hose here. And then I have my main feed. This is a dryer and a filter right here below. And then this goes up through that hose up into my attic where I have a Craftsman 20-gallon compressor. Here's my jet bandsaw that I use all the time. And typically I keep about a 3/8 inch or a 1/4 inch 14 TPI that I use to cut all the aluminum. The other day I was cutting some larger metal and I had a much larger bit for that. So here I've got my motorcycle equipment. Here's my Vespa. This is my BMW R1200 GS 2014. I got it all set up for, I'll kit it out for, you know, taking long trips with lots of gear. I like to go camping with my motorcycle, just take just the things I need. Here's a 1967 BMW R60/2 that I rebuilt a few years ago. So it's just a super minimalist motorcycle that I took from stock that a friend of mine had. He had done some engine work on it, but it was still all in pieces, and I just took it and turned it into what I pictured as a great little cruiser. So love this thing. Now I'll take you finally over to this. This is what I use for priming. So this is most or part of the crate that the empennage kit came in. I just took this, put some wire fabric over it, built a little hanger system with these little wires that I could use to hang small parts. So this works fantastic. Got my respirator here. I keep denatured alcohol in this to clean parts after I scuff them. I usually keep a few Scotch-Brite pads here. And I get a lot of questions about priming, so this is the primer I'm using. It's a SIM self-etching primer. I used this a lot in the past, rebuilding motorcycles and other projects. I love this stuff. I just wheel this whole kit outside onto the driveway and paint everything out there. I mean, you do have to have a respirator, but you're outside, so it's not that bad. And I think it works really well. So I can buy a case of this from Amazon. It comes in several different colors. I just prefer the light gray. I use denatured alcohol almost always to clean my parts after they're scuffed and Scotch-Brited. Keep a couple of trash cans, one for trash, one for recycle. And then here's my bench grinder that I use with the 3M wheel. This is pretty disorganized right now. I've got a Win bench top that has an adjustable speed here and a digital readout, which is fantastic because you don't have to move the belt. And then I've just got a Harbor Freight belt sander here just for whatever sanding I need to do that needs to go quickly. So that's kind of an overview of the shop. And I would consider this about a 2.5 car garage. So I can do everything I need to do, no problem. And every night I bring my wife's SUV back in, and that's what the black line is on the floor. Just an easy way for her to back up, or me to back up, without worrying about hitting any of the projects I have going on. And then I've got this little piece of wood here epoxy to the floor so you can know when to stop. So you can feel the tire hit that, and then on the rear view camera, you stop when you get to the red tape. It's super easy. And I don't have to worry about anything getting damaged from backing up. So when it comes to filming, I just use a simple tripod I got off Amazon. I keep a little battery pack that I used to, this is one of my old Jump Start battery packs that I would keep in the motorcycle. I've got a little USB hub here, and I can just run it up, mount it to the top here, keep it plugged in, and I can film for as long as I need to. Again, as you guys know, I do a lot of time lapse when I'm working on the project, so it works well. I just use a GoPro Black 7, and I use iMovie to edit my videos on my MacBook Pro. So really simple, really easy. And then, of course, you can play a few darts in between. So I hope that answers some of the questions that you've had. This is how I do it. I know everyone has a different way and different ideas of how to do things. This is the first time I've done a project of this scale, but I'm really enjoying it, and I hope you guys are enjoying the videos. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go, and love to hear your comments and your questions, and thank you very much. I appreciate your time and attention. Take care.